أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today in this session we are going to discuss human rights in Islam with reference to right to property and right to freedom of expression. Uh, Before discussing these two important rights, let us briefly discuss the meaning and importance of human rights in Islam. Human rights are statements granted by Allah, and in Islam they have special importance as these rights they are granted by Allah. They are not granted by any king or legislative assemblies, and therefore they can never be snatched nor changed even temporarily. Even Muslims they are required to accept them and recognize the people's rights in order to have them enforced and obeyed. As Quran states that those who do not judge by what Allah has sent down are the disbelievers. The Quran stated that human rights are universal and fundamental, and all the individuals are to enjoy and observe them under all circumstances, including war, regardless of whether he or she is living in the geographical confines of Islamic State or not. The Quran states, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين لله شهداء بالقسط ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم ألا ألا تعدلوا اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. There are various rights which are very important ones, including the right to life that we will discuss in a separate session. There is a right to property, right to freedom of expression, right to privacy, right to belief. These are some of the important rights which have been granted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to all human beings. Right to property. As you all know that land, property and housing rights are the rights of every human being. In the address which the Prophet delivered on the occasion of farewell Hajj, he said, "Your lives and properties are forbidden to one another till you meet your Lord on the day of resurrection." The Prophet also granted the right to property even to zimmis, that is, non-Muslim citizens of a Muslim state. As the Prophet said, one who kills a man under covenant that is a zimmi will not even smell the fragrance of paradise. So Islam provides the right to own property by all the citizens of the state without any discrimination on the basis of caste, creed, color, religion, etc. And both children and parents inherit property according to the law of the inheritance as laid down in detail in the Holy Quran. And Islam has not forbidden to own property, but the property can be owned using lawful means. And in the same breath, Islam forbids to own property through fraudulent and illegal means. There are three basic conditions of a right to property. Property should not have been owned through unlawful means. There should be legal way to own a property. The property owned through illegal means or unlawful means are not allowed in Islam. The acquisition of property should not involve any damage to others. That is, we should not snatch property of others. Others should not be damaged when the property is acquired. And this acquisition should not invalidate a valid claim, nor should establish an invalid one. On this basis, if a person purchases a stolen property, will not be regarded as owner. Similarly, if a person acquires property through cheating, forgery, or coercion, will not be regarded as owner of the property, as they are all illegal ways of acquiring any kind of property. So property should be acquired through lawful means, as Islam has impressed it upon all. If a non-Muslim embraces Islam, his right to property is respected. As I have already told you, that Islam has granted the right to property irrespective of religion, gender, or race. Quran has clearly mentioned the property rights, laws of inheritance, women's property rights, orphans, etc. There is a detailed account of these rights in various chapters of Holy Quran. As I told, I have already said that in Islam, everyone is allowed to acquire wealth through lawful means. And there is no discrimination between men and women in this respect. Like men, women can also acquire, transfer, lease, sell their property on their own. Holy Quran goes so far as to declare that taking of people's possessions or property is completely prohibited unless they are acquired by lawful means as permitted in Sharia. Quran says, do not devour one another's wealth by false and illegal means. And in his farewell address, as I already told you, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam declared that your lives and properties are forbidden to one another till you meet your Lord on the day of resurrection. In Islamic perspective, the right of ownership belongs to Allah in the absolute sense. The admission to Allah as the owner of the universe does mean that we as humans do not have the right to own property. It simply puts the right of ownership within the broader context. Ownership is part of our responsibility as trustees of God on earth. These were certain points regarding the right to property. And there is one more important right, is that is right to freedom of expression. Islam has given the right of freedom of thought and expression to all citizens of the Islamic State on the condition that it should be used for the propagation of virtue and truth and not for spreading evil and wickedness. It does not grant anybody the right to use abusive or offensive language in the name of criticism and freedom of speech. Indeed, Islam grants everyone the right to have his own opinion within the boundary of morality. The objective of speech, according to Islamic philosophy, is to build up love, tolerance, social harmony, and understanding among members of society for peaceful coexistence. Islam limits freedom of expression where it is blasphemous or creates social disorder. Holy Quran describes the quality of faithful in these words. The believer, both men and women, are friends to each other. They enjoin what is good and forbid evil. والمؤمنون والمؤمنات بعضهم أولياء بعض يأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر ويقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة ويطيعون الله ورسوله أولئك سيرحمهم الله إن الله عزيز حكيم. In one of the traditions of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "If anyone of you comes across an evil, he should try to stop it with his hand. If he is not in a position to stop it with his hand, then he should try to stop it by means of his tongue, meaning he should speak against it. If he is not able to use his tongue, then he should at least condemn in his heart. This is the weakest degree of faith." So, the freedom of expression, it should be used for the propagation of truth. It should not be used to propagate evil, wickedness, obscenity, and interferes with those who are inviting to virtues and righteousness. So, this is the obligation of every righteous person to call people towards the righteous path and prevent them from performing any kind of evil act. These were two important human rights which are granted by Islam, and we briefly discussed them in this session. In the next session, inshallah ar-Rahman, we will be discussing a right to life as one of the most important basic rights granted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to all human beings. Thank you for being with me.